y'all? It's your girl Kai, and I'm back again with yet another freaking episode of Shameless Kai speaking. Yay! It's been a minute since I've said those words yet again, and I tried my very, very best to not wait so long to come back, but life be lifing, y'all. I'ma just keep it so solid. Life be lifing, and I mean, I'm trying to navigate that shit. You feel me? So y'all already know what to do. My little day ones, you know, the people that's been here from the beginning, y'all already know what I'm finna say. Go get some snacks, get your drink, get your blanket, get whatever you need to get comfortable, because we got a lot of catching up to do. All right, y'all. For my newbies, hey, homie. I'm your host, Kyla, aka Shameless Kai, and you are now in my domain, baby. All right, this is a podcast rooted in transparency and spiritual and intellectual growth, partner. You feel me? It's a verbal diary, if you will. You know, just a journey into my mind and all of its multifaceted shit. A place to just come and unwind and kick it and talk about life and all that good shit. All right. A little backstory about this podcast. I started this podcast during COVID because I had a lot of things to say, you know, and a lot on my mind. And in order to stay sane, I wanted to find some type of creative outlet in order to express myself and all of my emotions on all levels of everything. And so, you know, this podcast was born because I wanted to talk about shit that, you know, I didn't want to have to necessarily talk to my family members about and or already did, you know, but I just feel like I just needed to express it in a new way. And, you know, I also got back into my drawing and art and all that other kind of stuff. And because literally all the materials were out, you know, everything was sold out, it, you know, kind of caused me to go and buy a digital iPad, which turned into, you know, me drawing on there and making digital art, and thus Shameless Abs created, you know, came about, which is my store where I have all the merch and art and all that good shit. And here we are, like, coming up on 2 years now. 2 years of being in business, and yeah, podcast still going, and we here. Few disclaimers. I do jingle, so if you hear a little jangalang, it is because I have hella bracelets and necklaces and earrings and all of that good shit. Okay, everybody that knows me knows that I like my gold. All right, I'm a little leprechaun. Okay, love my gold, and so that's what you hear. All right. Normally I take them off, but I'm not going to because I like them and they're mine and I want to wear them. Okay. So without further ado, like, let's catch up, people. All right. So last time I was on the mic, I was talking about balancing pretty much how to navigate, you know, work life, personal downtime, relationships, all that kind of different shit, and be able to, you know, still feel sane and still feel like yourself and still feel like you're not lacking anything. And if you do feel like you're lacking something, how to, you know, recalibrate, alchemize, right, your surroundings, your inner being, everything, in order for you to be able to execute in the matter that you need to in order to fulfill your purpose and to, you know, feel some type of sense of happiness. And so that's an ongoing thing. You know, you never really get it down jam packed, you know, because things are always changing, and so you're always going to have to readjust, right? But what can you do in the time being to be able to float through your daily routine and find some hope and optimism in every step you take, rather than being frustrated in everything that it is that you're doing? And, you know, so focusing on that. And so, you know, just basically applying the lessons and the new strategies and stuff that I figured out within myself, and letting new things unfold and seeing where that took me. And so once I got done airing that episode, I got a couple of DMs from some people talking to me about intuition, and kind of, you know, because I always speak about, you know, how I know that I know that I know that I know. You know what I mean? And it's just, and everything about my existence is not proving that I know, but following the nudges and pulls to experience that feeling that comes upon the reason why I know that I know. And so that made me think of, okay, intuition could be cool, because they were like, how do you know what intuition is, and how do you know what's your ego, right? And so with me, I feel like intuition is a feeling. It's something that has no voice for me. It doesn't have a voice. It's a feeling that comes about with no thought. It comes in that still place. It doesn't mean that you have to be physically still, but just very calm within yourself. And for me, it kind of creates an emotion. And that emotion sparks a thought that triggers a mental image, that seeing that mental image kind of transmute into a bigger understanding, to the connection to that thought, to what's going on around me, to what's going to happen, in the future, to what's going to happen right now. Like, it's a settling, comforting feeling that is guidance driven, it's an answer, it's a key, it's something that fits. And with me, with ego, how I tell the difference with my ego is my ego has a voice. Yes, ma'am. My ego has a voice, and it is defensive. It is protective. Okay, it is tailored to protect and to defend and to articulate what the fuck I said what I said. That is an ego, and it makes you, and it creates other thoughts in you that kind of unsettle you, and always has questions. It's never certain. It's questionable. Egos are, not to say that is bad, but I feel like everything in life is mirror images of each other, and we have all of these words, right? Because I love me some words. That's why my podcasts are normally geared upon like one word, one or two words, because I have such a relationship with words. I don't know why, but I do. And I feel like words are important, and words are your spells for life. What you speak, you spew. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I want my words to fit how it is I'm feeling at all times. And if not, I'm just not going to say shit, because, I don't want to, I know how powerful words can be, and how they trigger certain emotions and thoughts up in people because of how they do with me. And so, I feel like with ego and intuition, it's the same thing. We have introvert and extrovert. Something is more inner and withdrawn and doesn't need much, and it's very empathic and just kind of feels, and it knows, and it's very secure in that sense. And if it gets rocked out of anything, it gets kind of out of whack, and I resonate with that, because deep down, I may be on this mic talking to y'all and saying how I feel, but I am very, very introverted, very much to myself in my own little world. And then there's also this extroverted personality type that I have as well, where I know how to express, but I want to do it in a timely fashion that resonates with me. I don't like pressure. You know what I'm saying? Not saying that I can't handle pressure, but it's just like, I don't like to operate under pressure. I like to be graceful, and I like to be poised and ladylike, and especially now in my soft era, I'm in my softest of the softest of the softest I've ever been, and I fucking love it here. And in order for me to do that, I need to be able to keep my peace. So I say all that to say, we know the difference between intuition and ego, because we see it mirrored back at us 24/7. We see light and dark, and we see all of these things, and one is just more of a feeling center, how something feels. If it's nighttime, you can't necessarily see certain shit, but you can kind of feel where things are. And so if you trust how, you're feeling on it, you can make your way through. And that's the same with intuition versus, if a light is on, okay, for an example, and you kind of just know where you're going, but because you could see everything, you're kind of forgetting your other senses, and you stud your fucking foot on the end of the fucking bed because you have so much going for you, happening all at once and coming at you, that your other senses and stuff are knocked off. Therefore, you're kind of damaging yourself. You're hurting yourself. You're hurting yourself because you're not able to use things that are deeply embedded within you. You're kind of relying on outside sources, which is, in this case, ego being, your protective thoughts or your defensive thoughts or your defensive responses or actions or reactions or anything to try to, protect yourself and comfort you. And so both of them are good, definitely. And I feel like the other question I got a lot was, how did I get started with it? Like, knowing what the difference is. And I feel like just my upbringing, honestly. I've always been more spiritual based rather than religious. I've dibbled and dabbled in different religions. My dad and my mom, when they met, they were both practicing Nichiren Buddhism. My dad still practices to this day. My mom no longer practiced. And so, I knew about that. And then she was raised Catholic, so she did a lot of Catholic things growing up. And then she got into Christianity, so I spent some time in church and had all these fucking questions that I just felt like no one could really answer and satisfy me to what it was that I already felt to be true. It's not that I never had a relationship with God. I've always known it was something. Just known it was something. Like, I always known like it was something more and bigger that was beyond my control, because I could feel it. Like I've always been really introverted and to myself when it comes to certain feelings. And I feel like as well with that, being introverted, not really knowing what that was, and being a person that really feels and thinks and dives deep into certain shit, I experienced a lot of backlash with that, because I just didn't express that was it, because I didn't really know, like, I don't feel like talking right now. I'm feeling like, it's like, no, it's like I get angry, and so then I take on other personality types that people think that I have, and it's just, I'm taking that on because it's like, bitch, if you think that, then go ahead, like, you know what I'm saying, like, fuck it, blah, blah, blah. So it's like I became just hella egotistical and hot-headed, trying to defend my inner peace, rather than just being peaceful and letting my peace show its peace. And therefore the only defense that I need is to just be able to keep myself where I need to be and how I need to move, and everything else will fucking fall off. But that's what life teaches you, right? And so I feel like having the freedom to kind of go around in different religions and see, what felt similar to me. Like I was always on the mission to see where I fit. And if I didn't fit, I'm not going to force it. All right. I wasn't going to dim to fit in. Right. I wasn't going to do that. And so what always felt more comfortable with me is being in solitude, meditating. Now, when I was younger, I didn't know the word, but now that I'm an adult, meditation, really sitting in silence and in solitude and in deep thought, and just kind of letting my emotions and my thoughts just do what they want to do with no real force. And, just focus on just being present. And if I get drawn way out there within my thoughts, just to reel that shit right back in. And just the more and more that you do it, the easier it is for you to get into that mode and that mindset, even when you're in a crowded room full of motherfuckers, and I was always able to kind of sit and instill my environment in things that maybe happened the day before, or a couple weeks before, or shit from a couple of years ago would come to me and it would have a new meaning, and I kind of would simmer and feel comfortable in that mode of how it felt, and would like receive messages like guidance from something, right? Like I knew even at an early age something is guiding me, like, because I didn't think of this, I didn't know this before. How would I have this thought that would take me to this, to make me do this action that would bring upon that? Like, what? Like, you're never really experiencing anything outside of your own perception of your own self. So who brought this to me? How did this come to me? And how did I know? Like, so I've always been curious into that, and trying to find religions and when I was younger and growing up that could answer or could resonate with that feeling and talk to me about it in a way that I felt to be true, that made me feel safe, just never hit. It seemed like I needed to do a lot of giving of myself that didn't resonate with my personality type in order for me to be comfortable to label myself as this. So that's kind of, I guess that's how I got started with it, by just exploring me, and what was it? I'm looking at the question. It says, how do I feel right now? So how do I feel right now with the times, and based off of intuition? I guess that's what I guess I should ask for clarification, but I feel like if people kind of get tapped into themselves and get to know themselves, and my alarm is going on, get to know themselves, you'll know that you're kind of always being intuitively guided throughout everything. You'll kind of start making the connections and understanding once you start healing your own trauma, once you start really sitting down with yourself and trying to figure out why it is the way that you move the way that you move, like what brought this about. If people have said that you're always defensive, like why? And once you start to be curious about that, you'll kind of understand how your intuition works, how your own inner guidance works. I feel like I could sit here and tell you all fucking day how my shit works, but it's like, if you don't think and feel and process like me, and you didn't grow up in the same type of household and had the same type of experiences, you're not really able to decipher in the same exact way that I am, so it may not resonate, right? But however, I can tell you that if you want to get out of some shit that you're in, like a funk, I have a lot of people hit me like, we're at that age right now where we're in shock, like we're adults, like for real, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm 31, like we're adults now, and we have kids. A lot of us have kids. A lot of us are coming to that point where they want to have kids, and we've been through enough patterns that are repetitive in our life, and we're at that point where we're like, okay, some shit needs to change. And I feel like that is your intuition talking to you right then and there. You know what I mean? That fact of that, that some shit gotta shake up. Like, it's not mean and malicious. It's just very, gentle, and just very like, yeah, like you feel comfortable in it. And I feel like following that feeling will alleviate a lot of the bullshit that we go through right now in these current times, especially with all of these shootings and all of these killings and all just every fucking thing. Even with the work that I'm doing with Family Legacy 5, which is a nonprofit organization founded by Dr. Shelley. You can look that up at www.familylegacy5.com. And also Leadership Legacy Consulting, where it's the business of basically kind of going in and helping staff and corporations work together through their differences by understanding where they come from, right? And healing generational trauma and understanding history to kind of heal that trauma that it brings. And all of this shit is all fucking connected. It's all about healing the shit that you went through so you can get back to the purest form of you and create from there. It's about staying connected to that inner knowing, that inner you, your purest form that you possessed as a child, right? Remember like the episode Dream Like a Child, Think Like an Adult. Staying connected to that pure form, but being an adult in your waking life, like going about accomplishing the shit that you wanted as a child, or being the person that you needed as a child now, because you can. And all of these life lessons that you're fucking learning, you can instill it every single day rather than holding on to it as baggage. You know what I'm saying? Take the shit out that you don't need. You know, when you go on the plane and you put your fucking baggage down and they tell you that shit's over 50 pounds, you feel me? You gotta pay extra. If you don't have the money, you gotta take that shit out and you gotta sacrifice some shit. Or you could have just packed right the first time and you know, really took focus and care on your necessities and your essentials, but the essentials of being what is essentially good for you, not somebody else, right? So it's a constant checking of your bag. It's a constant evaluation of am I doing okay? How am I feeling? And constantly tapping in with that. And I feel like if people do that enough, then, you know, we wouldn't be carrying around so much baggage from shit. We would be letting certain stuff go, and we wouldn't let certain things affect us for so long that then end up picking up and developing new characteristic traits and spilling that over into family members. And now you're treating your kids this way or your spouse this way because you haven't dealt with your shit and you're tired and you're just this and this and this. So I feel like staying connected and listening to that feeling that you have about certain things that you just know to be true will get you in way further in life than constantly relying on ego. Don't completely dismiss it now, because you need that shit, okay? That's part of your personality, all right? That's a part of your personality. It's a part of your general makeup. But you need both, but you need to be able to balance them out. You know, if one thing gets too heavy, then let some weight on the other side go. You know, can't be all sun all the time. Shit will fucking dry up and shit like that. And, you know, we need a little rain. We need a little fucking darkness. We need a little everything, you know, but just really still trying to make sure that you make the best choices for that moment and for what's going to happen, you know, in the future on where it is that you want to be. And only you can answer that. So really listening and feeling how that resonates within your body, because you're going to feel it in your body, you know. And that's why it's important to that's why it's important to you know yourself and spend that time with yourself and not always try to extend yourself. And that's where me always wanting to keep my peace comes in, you know. And so it's crazy because I'm at this point in life now where things that I remember as a child, writing in my journal, you know what I'm saying? I've always been a dear diary kind of girl, you know. Today, my friend said this, and I think she's stupid because I think she could do it. Like, I've always been that type of person, but just as I got older, being more detailed or being more, you know, goal driven and trying to be grateful, you know. But I remember as a little kid writing out my life, you know, like really writing it out and just dreaming. And I just knew that this was what I wanted. You couldn't tell me that this wasn't mine. I remember writing like, I'm gonna be a doctor one day. I'm gonna heal people, and I'm gonna help people feel better, and I'm gonna have kids. At the time it was 4 kids. I'm gonna have kids, 2 twin girls and 2 twin boys, and I'm gonna be married, and I'm gonna be able to travel, and my husband is gonna be my best friend, and we're gonna do everything together, and we're gonna do this. And it was really, really important to me that my kids had grandparents, and because me growing up, I didn't have, you know, grandparents, and they all passed at an early age, like within their 60s, you know, on my mom's side. And on my dad's side, I think my grandmother passed away like in her early 60s or like late 50s. And then my grandfather on that side passed away, like I think he was like in his late 80s or 90s. But just didn't have any growing up, you know. And I knew that I wanted that feeling. And I remember, you know, just sitting back observing and peeping shit and kind of knowing that certain people in my family held more weight, you know, could manage and deal with a lot of things that other people just couldn't, and they were the glue. And my grandmother on my mom's side was the glue for her side of the family. She was the glue that kept my mother attached to that side of the family, for one, you know. And she was able to always balance, maybe, I mean, from my perspective, right? Because I'm a child and I'm recollecting what I saw, and now the years of hearing stories and kind of what I knew to be true of her, and was able to balance these different personality types in enough love and very stern, like straightforward, matter of fact way, to where people knew what was up, but they were still comfortable and still wanted to be around and still wanted to be a part. And because they loved her, they fucked with her, you feel me? And that was the same with my mom. Like, my mom suffered from mental illness, and so she was manic depressive. And for those of you who don't know, that is where you are bipolar and depressed all mixed into one. And all of that mixed in with her own traumas of growing up the way that she grew up. And the time that she grew up, she was born in 1956, and she grew up in she was born in Oklahoma, but grew up in Kansas, and spent a little time in Bama and everything. And during that time with the boycotts, and of course, we're still dealing, even now to this day, dealing with light skin, dark skin, and what's acceptable, and all this other racist colorism bullshit. Okay. And so her back then, dealing with that, being this extra fair, I'm fair, y'all think I'm light skinned, okay, but fair, and her hair is this like dirty blonde brown look, and she has these green eyes, and you know what I mean, like really trying to figure out where the fuck she fit in, and often at times had to damn to do that. And so I remember just sitting at the table coloring and drawing and just listening to them, watching their mannerisms, watching how she would console my mother, how she would dial her back in when she would get too worked up, and just thinking like, wow, like grandmommy really knows her daughter, really knows her baby. And so to me, it was like, okay, it's very important for me to have a relationship with my mother no matter what. And I know now that she is a person that can kind of get wrapped up in the details and how something happened, because she wanted to have certain control of her life because of how much control she didn't have over her own emotions and or the experiences that she experienced. She often at times strayed away from what she knew to be true because she was goal driven, but she was goal driven in a way that was always to prove her emotions and her self-worth, because that was something that she didn't recognize within herself. So she's always either one in discovery of it, and then going through shit because she went about it in a way that was egotistical and not aligned with who it was that she really was, because she wasn't comfortable with who it was she really was, because she couldn't face the things that had happened to her. So naturally now in this Western society world, instead of talking about shit like that, when my grandmother passed, instead of having someone she could talk to about things like that, she started popping pills. All right. And that became a whole thing in itself, because as we know, pharmaceutical drugs, you feel me, like they solve or semi-solve one problem, and they create other ones with side effects and all of these other things that now create all these other ailments and stuff that honestly probably really could have just been worked on had she had someone in her life who took the fucking time to understand where she was going through, and also had she accept that she was really going through some shit that was fucked up. Because the first step is acceptance, right? You gotta accept and you gotta surrender in the fact that you don't know every fucking thing, and you can't control everything, and that shit happens. And maybe you're in a place right now that you don't like or that you don't feel comfortable in, but at first you have to accept and surrender in the fact that you're there. And that was the one thing that I noticed my mom was never really able to get until she would have her other side of her episode, of where she was very logical and very very responsive and very like, okay, we're gonna get it done. Like I would notice the switch in her. It's not as drastic as the movies make it seem, but there was definitely a switch. And so noticing too, like the effects of how she would be if she was on certain medications and stuff like that. But just knowing that that's my mom. And when my grandmother passed, the family on that side kind of just couldn't really deal with the shit that my mama had to say and what she thought about people. And also too, because my mom was sad, it was just like, she would have her people that she would trust, and then she had, how families kind of show up when there's a death and then they disappear when they, when after like a week or two or a month or whatever, and it goes back to normal, you know what I'm saying? And so that was traumatic for her, because it's like, this some fake shit. You feel me? And so she's telling everybody about themselves because of how she feels, and everybody's just kind of like, hey yo, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, here Kai go doing what she do, and no doubt she could have had a better way of explaining herself. But I mean, you have to be taught that, and you have to want to be that way. And so watching that at a young age, I kind of was like, okay, like things are about to be different, and I need to be different right along with it. Like, I need to make sure that I get to know myself so that I don't have these same types of reactions that my mother has towards people and in life and in general. I knew that the way she felt energetically was heavy because she was carrying a lot of shit. And so naturally growing up in that, I start to develop those types of characteristics because that's what I'm around all the time. And not knowing how empathic and sensitive I am and how much I pick up and I absorb if I don't just observe it, it affects my day to day, and I become all out of whack, and I become something that is me still in a sense, because I mean, everything I do is me, but it isn't driven from a place of authenticity. It's driven from a place of like ego, or wanting to prove, or wanting to complete some goal or mission that I'm on. Like I'm fixated on completing a mission, you know what I mean? I'm essentially hungry for whatever it is that I have decided that I want to devour, what I want to eat. I become animalistic in my approach to things rather than who I naturally am, which continues to unfold as you explore the things that are the most connected to you, right? Which is very, very soft, very feminine, very sure, and just sweet, like just sweet, and it's like the age that I am right now, being 31, like I'm definitely embracing my softness and have come more into my feminine energy in a way that I've always known that I would. That was always the goal, the way I knew I wanted to feel, what I pictured a lady would be. I'm not completely there yet. However, I mean, damn, little toot. However, it's a whole thing, and with that, being able to present myself in that way and have it be real, not have it be a facade, was very important to me. And so peeping shit like that, like experiencing everybody and watching and observing everybody and how they move and how I felt, about the way they move, how that resonated with me. Does it match up with my inner being? Does it line up with my morals? Is it aligned with my values? Do I remember my values? And I felt like certain words that my mother would say and everyone else around me would say would mismatch with their actions. And so it would make me think, like, since I've always known that, you experience things in your life because you choose to. You put your interest and your intention on something, and therefore everything that you know to be true will unfold for you in that type of way. So it's like knowing that, and now knowing that I'm experiencing these feelings and these thoughts and watching this, it's like, okay, I've asked for this experience, and now that I have the answers, how do I want to apply it into my life so that I could make sure that if this does happen to me, I navigate it in a way that is easy for me to be able to keep going. So, because I never wanted to stop feeling. And I felt like everyone I watched around me that went through traumas, it would shut off parts of themselves that were the most true, that would have cured their sadness had they not disconnected from it. And my whole purpose, my whole sole purpose in life is to stay connected to that thing and then live from that place. Like, I decided early that that is the goal. That is my goal to happiness. So with finding that self-discovery, it's like I'm interested in that and I'm intrigued in that. And it's like naturally I want to talk to any and everyone about that because I feel like that's the key, right? And so staying true to that, but living in a world where honestly talking about your feelings, especially with the Black family, like, going to a therapist or talking to anyone about how you feel really can be a sign of weakness, especially for Black women, because we take on so much, and to show weakness is to sometimes essentially show a way to be able to take you down and to get over. And because that's our history, we've been kicked down and pushed aside and used up, and our identities taken and our words twisted, and so then naturally over time you become leery of expressing how it is you truly feel in the way that comes natural to you to express. And so you become something that you're not, and that's generation after generation. And that's even with any other culture as well, just human nature, period, right? And so not doing that. But when you don't do that, you have to deal with other people who are doing that, looking at you like, the fuck? And that can be scary in itself and traumatic in itself, because you have personal experience with other people who disagree with how it is that you move. And if you're not comfortable with being you and had enough practice in being you, then you will sway and you will lose that battle every time, and you'll go with the majority every single time, essentially losing you, right? Disclaimer, pause real quick. If you hear noises outside, like my husband and my kids are doing basketball drills outside, and I'm like right by the window, how my desk is set up, so that's what you hear. But anyway, moving on. And so, I knew I had all these realizations early, and I would see how people are hurt and certain shit that other family members and friends and, teachers, adults in the community, all my childhood experiences would react when certain words would come up. So I'm guessing, well, I'm kind of realizing this right now. I'm guessing that's where my relationship with words came in, because I remember I caught on early, my mom and my grandmother would, when they didn't want me to know certain words, they would spell it out. And so I became fascinated with words, because it was like, oh, they're still talking, but they're trying to spell out these words, so I don't really know what it is, because they onto my shit. I'm a kid. I'm thinking I'm being stealthy and shit, but of course not. Like they know I'm ear hustling, just like I know my kids is ear hustling when I be talking. Like it's certain things that you do that to kind of give away what the fuck you doing. And so realizing, oh shit, they're spelling words and they're talking in code. So then I don't know these words, so I would have to pay attention to their body language, and I would have to pay attention to the way their mouth moved and the way their eyes moved. And, I come from a family that is fully, like both sides, really expressive. And, my Lewis side, my mom's side, very animated, very, with your hands and your fingers and your neck and your body, and just very theatrical. Okay. Just yes. That is definitely where I get it from. Just very, yes, and so, I watch their fingernails, the way they talk between their two fingers with their fingernails, and it's certain things, and moving their lips, and, puckering their lips and rubbing their lips together because they got lipstick on, and kind of like, and it's just like, I know what that, I kind of know what they're talking about. I kind of get it. So I became really more in tune with my feelings and how it made me feel watching it, and knowing their personalities, like what it was that they were talking to each other about, and so in that moment I kind of knew, okay, there's other ways that you can connect with people other than just the words you speak and the conversation that you have and the questions you ask. You could pay attention to a person's body language and, the way maybe their leg jumps or their leg shakes or the way they tilt their head or the way they swallow before they say this or that. Like, everything is telling a story. And if you just use your feeling, your own personal feeling of how it makes you feel, watching it without taking a personal attack on someone's feeling, on what it is that they're doing, right? Just observing, not taking things personally, but observing how that person moves and how it resonates within you, and seeing if it lines up, where the connection is. Then that's normally it's a part of also telling the story, right? It's a part of being connected. And so I knew that, okay, I need to make solid ass connections in my life, and I knew that people that would stay and be lifetime people were the ones that would understand and appreciate my core and who I was. And in order to appreciate that, they had to get through all of these barriers, because that's the prize, right? That's anyone's most prized possession, is their true authentic self. And to have someone know that and to share that with another individual means that they're special, right? So I'm like, okay. And then all of these other, I would watch how she would, and family members would, and elders would react with other individuals that maybe they didn't have that special connection to, and how it was still some type of piece of authenticity in it. However, it was masked or cloaked and or molded and bended to fit that person who they were speaking with, persona and their attitude. So I'm like, okay, there's a way where you can connect to each and every single individual, but still continue to tailor to be to your authentic self. And you just have to figure out how that person receives messages, how that person naturally feels things on a regular. And you do that by observing from a place that is still and calm and feeling and not forced. And you kind of feel how that resonates within you and how that applies, and and you just kind of sit with that, and then you're able to find some connection, that same type of lingering feeling within yourself, and immediately you're able to respond and connect, when you're not taking things as a personal attack. And that word and that phrase, personal attack, would be, of course, when I'm younger, wouldn't be those words, right? But I would just notice like some apprehension and some taken abackness, like some and I knew that those are blockages. Those are like doorways, or something happened to the point where my mother, my grandmother, friends, someone was not being themselves. And I knew I didn't like that feeling. And so I got really good at spotting that feeling within people, within myself, within every single thing in life, and would then immediately either try to push through it, or I would try to completely detach from that outcome and not put too much effort into it because I knew it didn't resonate with how I wanted to be received and or go about business, right? And I knew that difference within me that I didn't. If I don't like something, I ain't gonna do it. Point blank period. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. Now at this age, no ma'am, no sir, it's not gonna happen. No. Excuse me. And because it's all about keeping my peace, and if it doesn't sit right with me and my spirit, I can't execute in the way that you want me to execute, and so it feels forced, and I have to find purpose in it in order for it to be something. I could do a whole show pony type of shit, however, I mean, is it going to be my best? No. And I pride myself on being my most authentic, shameless ass self. And a part of being that is saying no when I don't like something, right? And pivoting and having it adjusted to what it is that I like. And I feel like that trait within me developed from being an observer and realizing that's the one thing that they're lacking is the fortitude and the grit to be like, I don't like that shit, let me change it. But instead of being mad at the individual or the situation, get purposeful in the fact that I need to solve a problem and make it fit to how it is that I need to be in order to continue. So I knew that about my mom and about certain people, and everybody has different tells, even within myself, of where you're at your limit, right? And so growing up, I'm like, maybe my purpose in life is to help people realize this shit, because I'm pretty good at it. I've always been the friend that people come to for advice in a moment of just like, I need a Kai moment, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, okay, people that let me know, like, you got the time and the space right now? Because they know I am about my peace. And I'm like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? I always have time and space for people that, you know what I'm saying, love me and I love them, and and because I know what it's like to not have an ear, okay, and to not be able to have a foundation or a place where you could really open up and really talk about the things that are uncomfortable, because I've witnessed it all around me growing up, and I've been a sponge to it and have been able to instill shit forever. And so based on all these early life experiences, I've been able to navigate in a way that's been completely with me having creative control of how it is that I want to live my life, even the bad shit that I experienced. I wanted not the bad shit, but I wanted whatever it was that I got that ended up being a domino effect of something else, because one thing's always connected to another. I still wanted those things. I still energetically asked for it, whether it was I was mad and fixated on something. Like, I'm complete and understanding of that. So as long as I can control that, then I'm Gucci. So then I got hyper active on making sure that my life was set up the way it needed to be set up, because the goal is to basically live the most purest, happiest life of my creating possible, because I witnessed all around me that these people that I'm watching, family members, friends, or whatever, don't have control over their emotions, their thoughts. They're not balanced, they're imbalanced. And my whole goal was, how can I continue to implement the lessons that I learn on a regular and keep my balance, to never lose my footing so I don't get off track. And so with that one thought in itself, it naturally triggered other like domino effect thoughts, right? And so you go into one rabbit hole after another. And so I'm like, okay, I'm very, very good at drawing. I'm good at writing. Like, maybe this will take me somewhere one day, and it's just a thought. And it's like, but it's something that I know that I just, I know to be true, and it just feels comfortable and natural to me, and being an observer and experiencing things and tailor making my experiences and this and this and that. And so it's like, okay, now I got to look at my life as a whole, because I'm a deep thinker. Okay, I am a thinker. All right, I visualize, I plan out. My husband teases me all the time saying I got a Doctor Strange mind, because I do. I definitely do. Okay, I'm like one Hot Wheel track, like he says, with hella different Hot Wheels going, and they all make it to the finish line without crashing each other. Like, whoa, do it again. Like, that is how I've always been. And so knowing that around me, the outcome of what I was experiencing could potentially be my reality one day, because I knew that they have patterns. And in life, we have patterns. We have seasons. We have things grow in a certain way. Things fall off in a certain way. They have tails. You could notice the transitions. What is a transition? What is a solid thing? Like, all of these different things, I've noticed this by just sitting back and peeping shit, And so it's like, okay, if they're experiencing this and certain things are genetic, then the odds of me being depressed or dealing with anxieties and not knowing how to deal with my own emotions because I don't have anyone to teach me are very high. And if I don't pay attention to how it is that I move and how it is that I process my emotions, and if I spend time with my own emotions and staying true to myself, I will look like this. And I didn't want to look like that, because to me, that wasn't being ladylike, right? Like, it wasn't being graceful. It wasn't being happy, because when they're not paying attention, I'm watching them wash dishes and be deep in thought and have this look of melancholy and just brooding, that they're unaware that they feel and that they're showing, they're displaying. And it's like, what's going on in their mind? The reason why they are displaying this on the outside, their posture, their this, their that, like their thoughts are controlling them. The key to life is to make sure that my thoughts don't control me. So then, unknowingly, my own trauma that I am experiencing from watching these adults and going through school and life with other kids who have their own trauma, and now they're having a personal experience with me, and I'm taking on their reactions and perceptions of me and trying to navigate that, like that I am creating my own trauma by being hyper aware of how it is that I respond to things, to the point of where I'm developing my own mask, right? My own keys, my own locks, my own triggers. My mind and my emotions are taking snapshots of things. And though that's fine, that's natural, that's what happens on a day-to-day, we can't help that. That's how our brain and our emotions and everything are wired. But it's up to us to filter it and file it, if you want to think of it as a computer system, okay? Filter it and file it in the appropriate places of where it's beneficial to you, not a detriment to you, right? But when you're ego-driven, you can very easily sway out of that receptive, logical, level-headed mode of retaining information, observing, right? Not absorbing, and figure in saying, okay, this is just contrast. I asked for this personal experience and I experienced this. And if you always get exactly what you energetically ask for, right? That's law of attraction. However, if this doesn't resonate with me, then okay, I'm not going to take this personally and harp on this and keep replaying this shit in my head and take the egoic route of where you're trying to prove, right, a point. Then I can just file it intuitively as, okay, I needed this in order to appreciate what it is that I'm asking, because I wasn't specific enough. I was too general. This is not what resonates with me. I need to go deeper. I need to be more specific. I need to be more intentional. I need to be more relaxed. I need to be more allowing. Like all of these other calming, naturally happy thoughts start to take place, and you start to move that way. But life happens and shit just keeps happening so quickly that sometimes, honestly, you can't navigate it all, especially if you don't know a good rhythm within yourself to be able to do so. So those types of things were important to me. And so it was like, okay, that is the goal. So how do I do that, you know? And within knowing that, I started to pay attention on certain things that I immediately as a child wanted. And as a child, I knew that with my grandmother passing early and my grandfather passing early and my other side, them passing and not having that close, tight-knit family, that was the very first thing that I wanted, because that's what I sparked off into the universe, the vortex, to God, to myself, higher being, whatever word you want to say that makes you feel comfortable. Okay, spark that off. That was my goal. So every move that I made as a kid was to prep myself so that I could be living that lifestyle, and I could be that mommy that would have kids, that would have grandparents, and that would have this full-on family, because I wanted to do better. I wanted to be that one that was a glue like my grandmother, and, you know, gave a fuck about the details like my mother, and, you know, had all of these people around that would just contribute to this feel good vibe that I missed and longed for so much, you know, but got glimpses of it being possible, you know? And so how can I contribute? And so I knew that, okay, if they're dying at 60 something, you know, especially on my mom's side, and my mom was 36 when she got pregnant with me, then I don't have much time to fuck around. Because if life is a series of patterns, and recognizing the pattern and knowing how you could sway and move with it without being completely, you know, disrupted, it's a rhythm. If I can't get myself in a position to be able to change the longevity of this pattern, I'm fucked. So imagine that weight of that realization when I was younger, and it was something that I couldn't shake. I couldn't shake the feeling of knowing that I needed to be different. And no matter what, I needed to be different. If they didn't choose love, I needed to choose it. I needed to figure out a way to choose it in the best way that I could move forward. And I needed to swallow that bullet. So then, realizing that I need to swallow the bullet sometimes for pride, I started naturally having a battle with my pride, right? Because law of attraction, you feel me? Like, what you think about, you become. So I started getting pushed in life in situations where I had to deal with pride. Prideful motherfuckers, deal with my own pride, deal with my own ego getting the best of me, other people's egos getting the best of me, feeling like I didn't go hard enough, like all of these different lessons, experiencing what life had to offer with that fixation of that realization, right? And not knowing at the time, because I was young, that I needed those experiences. And then you get kind of deep and down and out about feeling like, damn, like, why am I going through all of this shit? You know, but it's all conditioning for what it is that you need to do. So then, boom, when I realized those lessons, that stuff still sits in. So naturally, like, I want to talk about it because that's the type of person I am, right? I'm here on this mic right now talking to y'all about realizations. Like, I want to talk because I want to help. You know, I want to share my experience. I know if I share mine, and because we're in the same vicinity as each other, and I know that vibes and energies all flock the same because there's patterns and movements of things of being able to take shape, that's on a microscopic level to the maximum. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just repetitive everywhere. Then I know that maybe what I'm saying could eventually help you one day, help me one day, or me saying this shit to you and watching your response ends up helping me. Regardless, I want to share, right? So I used to realize, dang, that's what my mother needs, that's what I need, that's what we all need. So as I started to get older, I tried to adapt and to connect with my mother in that way, and everybody within that way, and everybody had their different responses of how it was that I was connecting. And my lesson, now that I'm realizing it, was to experience those contrasts, to then be able to instill it and mix it up in the pot and pay my own shit forward, to continue on with the experience that I chose to have, because I asked for this. And now that I have this type of energy here, I need to be able to navigate it, right? And so I remember coming to this self-realization of of me and wanting to share the news with my mother and with everyone around me. And the thing about people is, when you can only meet someone at the level that you know of the level of understanding that you know yourself, right? So if I know myself on this deep level and I'm trying to talk to someone else and they've maybe never even scratched the surface of themselves, I'm talking gibberish, I'm wasting their time, they're pissed off, I'm trying to tell them about themselves, like words aren't hitting. Healed people hear differently. Healed people hear differently. And I started to take on their reactions personally. But in the grand scheme of things, I still needed that, right? I needed that to know that, okay, like, this doesn't resonate with me, but I didn't need to take it personally, right? So experiencing life enough and coming to a point of knowing that my mom had mental illness and me always wanting to help, I started to bring to her my self-actualizations and things that I realized about me and how I moved and how I navigated, in hopes of speaking with her about what I experienced and how I felt and how I pushed through would give her some zest for explaining her trauma and fixing her shit, so that we could essentially work on the issues, deep-seated issues I had within stuff that I experienced growing up as a child. I wanted to touch on, but I wanted to be gentle with her feelings, because I knew that she had a perception I didn't have, and I'm coming at her from being a child where she was an adult when I was experiencing these traumas, right? So her perception of it is different, and I didn't want to step on her toes and be carefree with something that could be really, really deep, right? And that's where I realize now, once again, as talking this out now, that my issue with confrontation was born, because I am such an observing and absorbing, sometimes feeling person, that because I almost connect a little too much, that I can teeter-totter around what it is that I need to say and how I need to say it in order to get my point across, because I'm caring too much about the recipient's feelings, and therefore I'm doing a detriment to myself. I'm hurting myself, right? Because I'm not doing what I need to do for me, that sets my soul on fire, that liberates me, because I'm tailoring to somebody else's shit. And so in trying to grow closer with my mom and heal her, I started to take on things that were hurting me and essentially driving us further and further apart. And it caused me to look at her in a way that was like, okay, like, I really need to get my shit together, because it's like her mental, her everything is just completely just like it's not resonating with mine, and I don't know how much time I'm going to be able to deal with the pain I feel of not being able to fully express myself. So it's like I started to live. I stopped trying to help and I just started to live. And it's like, okay, I'm going to have kids, I'm going to get married, blah, because I always felt like intuitively, like the trajectory of my mother living past her 70s is slim, especially with how her mother and her father passed, and just the way that my mom was going about her life, right? It was something I felt. So it was like, I need to get busy. I need to get my life moving and figure out what it is I need to do quickly. And essentially rushing, processes and being forceful, and then having traumas and experiencing traumas because I'm rushing, and going through certain things because I'm rushing. But it was just like I felt like this impending pressure of I wasn't going to have my mother for long, and I needed to focus on and reconnect to the things that were most important to me as a child. Message was most important to me as a child, which was having and building a family. So trying to fix her is not the priority. You know what I'm saying? Fix yourself. Focus on yourself. Like, that was what I felt. You know what I'm saying? Focus on you so that you could do what you always said you wanted to do. And so I had kids. I got married, had kids, had a whole life. But then it was like, I accomplished that goal in the way that I did. But then I started to experience other shit, and that caused me to live, thousands of miles away, being a military family, because you don't have control over everything. You could, you don't have control over the details. You could just kind of have an inkling of what it is that, for yours to be true, right? A desire for you to be true. And how it unfolds is essentially the journey, right? Is life, how it unfolds. And so I'm like, okay, I accomplished this goal. And so I'm like, I felt happy, like I have these kids, and like, you know what I'm saying? And then it was like, okay, boom, that's checked off. And I didn't finish college and all this other stuff and get the doctorates that I wanted, but at the end of the day, I took my win on the fact that I wrote it and I said, and I knew that I would, travel. I'm doing that. I knew that I would, have different types of connections and be staying true to me. I knew that as long as I stayed connected and took the time to reconnect with what is important to me, that I would be able to push through and accomplish anything that I needed to. You know what I mean? Like, I knew that I would be able to evaluate myself and figure out how it was that I needed to move. Like, that was just something that was in me, and that same feeling within me was the same thing that was driving me to accomplish the impossible, and to be able to face the impossible because I knew that I would make it on the other side. I didn't know. I mean, you could have an image or an idea, or you can add all of these desires onto something and how you want in order for it to go. But bottom line, that's where your mind kind of takes into play, right? You're no longer in a feeling mode. You're in a thinking mode. Your thoughts are adding to your feelings and essentially building on top of that, right? So I knew, okay, I'm creating, but it came from a feeling of just knowing. And I knew, guys, that being an observer and being connected to myself, and then authentically connecting to another individual would not only in return help someone else in the long run, okay, which is what I always intuitively knew that I wanted to do because it felt good to do so, but also it would in turn heal me because of the experiences and the reactions and the responses that I would get from another individual would show, in a way, a reflection of me, of something that I needed to see and needed to experience on some level, whether it was physical, emotional, psychological, anything, because I understood at an early age that you basically are what you attract. Law of attraction, right? And so trying to deal with manage and control my adolescent mind, and shamelessly dealing with it at the best way that I could in that moment, and not putting my own self to shame because of what it was, of how I reacted or how I did that, because it was all a learning experience and I had to. So I say all that to say that I also knew that my mom would pass at a very pivotal age for me. And so if I didn't get on the ball on knowing myself and figuring out my own shit, that when she passed, I would be in shambles just like she was. And I needed to figure out the makings of me quickly. And I needed to do it in a way that I would still be able to check off my childhood boxes in order for myself to feel secure in that moment. And you guys, this year, 2022, the year that I just knew would be drastic for me. Like I was telling my husband when I first started this business back in 2020, that year 22 is going to be a game changer for me. Shit's going to move. Shit's going to shake. I don't know what it is, but it's finna be different. I kept seeing this number 11/22 2020, 11/22 2022 in my dreams all the time. And now today is that day, of course. But I didn't know what would come with that feeling, with that date. You know what I'm saying? I just knew that feeling was important, and I would feel a certain type of way because of how I felt when it came about. You know what I'm saying? When that dream came about, what resonated within me, how I interpreted the feeling, I knew that whatever it was, that I would be different. Something was different about that day, about that time. And so every move I made was to be in kind of discovery of what that was, right? Because that's what intuition is. You have a feeling, and then life happens in search of that feeling. And in September, I got the call that my mom passed. Okay. And by this time, right, her and I don't want to say it's strange, but all of the mental issues and all of the things that I discovered within myself definitely drove a wedge in between our relationship, because I'm on a mission of self-discovery and healing shit and not living in the past and just always improving to get better and better and better. And my approach to life was very different from hers, and it had always been very different, but it became so different to the point where I couldn't be in a room with her. And so it started off on trying to heal the trauma that I had from watching her do things and experience and my own feelings and having questions and just wanting to heal so that I could break this generational chain of trauma, right? And she couldn't. For years I tried to talk to her about things that bothered me, about things that I wanted to know about her, and just find some common ground so we could let it go, and she couldn't. And for years it was a heavy feeling that I carried, because this was something that I knew as a child that no, that I am going to be better. You know what I'm saying? Like, we will be better. We will do better. It will get better. It will be better. Period. Like, I'm supposed to do better. And so I got really fixated on trying to help and realized that I can't control shit. I can't control how it is that she's always been moving. And I can't control her demons, and I can't simmer them, and I can't control her reactions to how people move and how I even move, and how she's responding to me in a way that doesn't resonate with me, the reason why we're having these differences, and I would watch her over the years become like panicked, and I remember just like always being very like lucid on the fact that certain things were what they were, and having to come with terms with that, because I knew that she wouldn't be around forever, for one, because that's natural, that's life, but I had already completed the things I had set out to complete, and right now I intuitively felt, about 5 years ago, that my sole mission when it comes to my mother is to start forgiving her and seeing how it is that she moves and why she moves that way, so that when her time comes, I could pick up all of her desires and all of her wishes and all of her things that she really, really wanted for herself, and have them come true, but have them come true through me. Right? Because that's what family legacy is about, right? That's what leaving and building a legacy is about. And essentially, I'm not wrong of knowing that I would be the one that would be different. That shit that happened when it happened was different, and that it was essentially because that's what sparked that realization for me to kick certain shit into gear so I could be that change, right? And so getting that call after so many failed attempts of trying to fix our relationship because we just grew apart from differences, that other things that I know to be true are also true, and that I feel, and that they'll settle in when the right time is, and when they do kick in the gear, I'll know what to do. And I always knew that my mother would pass and I would get a phone call saying, we found your mother, was the thing that I would always tell my husband, like when her and I were going through the things that we were going through, and I was frantic about fixing it because I had an ideal image of how her time on earth would end. Her time on earth would end with us patching every fucking thing up and being happy-go-lucky and solving that childhood dilemma that I had. That's how she was gonna go out. You know what I'm saying? And and she didn't. And so, and I saw that she wasn't going to go that way. Like, what do I have to do now to make peace with it, because it's coming and I can feel it and I can't shake it. And I sit up nights and just be like, just bugged out, like, what? You know what I mean? And I would try all these different ways, and I would monitor her spending, to see if she was alive, because we couldn't even have a conversation, you guys. We couldn't even talk, because my whole goal was to just show her that I loved her and I was there, but I couldn't deal with the abuse and the mental manipulation and the emotional manipulation that she did because she was unhappy, right? And I just wanted that to stop and just wanted us to be able to just kick it. I couldn't deal with all the extraness that came with being in her energy, and it fucked with me, and being an adult, like, I'm not finna do shit that I don't like, and I don't care who you are, and that sucks, and it sucks to be a fucking adult sometimes, but I have to be able to function, to be able to take care of my family, like, I have to be able to. And so I knew I had to make peace with the fact that I wasn't going to be able to to cure, to solve anything? And how do I need to start detaching, one finger by one finger to prep myself for this phone call? Because I knew I was going to get it. Because how she had been moving for years was showing everywhere that she was going to end up dying alone, yo. Like, and I remember pleading with her, like, yo, like, you don't want this, like, and it's just like, it happened, bruh. Like, this shit happened. Like, we still don't know how she passed. Like, I got the phone call. My cousin, actually, the one I just ended up going to her wedding in August, she texted me and was like, Cameron, which is my uncle, my mom's baby brother, who's younger than me, was like, call him. And so I just sat there for a moment and I knew, you know what I'm saying? I knew exactly what the fuck they were about to say. And it was a series of things that kind of led up to that day, because for like a solid week straight, I was kind of off. Like, I couldn't really function. Like, my heart was really, I had like weird palpitations. Like, I just wasn't myself. I kind of knew and felt something ain't right. And so I was going through all these people, calling people and reaching out to people, trying to see if people were okay. And everybody was doing all right, you know what I'm saying? But the one person that I knew I couldn't call and would tell me the truth was my mom. So it was like I had to just kind of just sit and wait. And so every day I'd wake up and I check her account to see if she was still making transactions, still going about business. And it was still for a while. And I got a phone call maybe about a week before she passed, and she had called. I had my phone on D&D, and she called back to back, literally, and was having conversation with my voicemail, y'all, and was talking about how she was happy that she got to spend time with me, how she was happy that I traveled all this way to come see her, and let me know before you come next time. I would have cleaned up. Like, she knows I was a stickler for shit being clean, and she's just like, I would have cleaned up and this and this, and was talking about some eye surgery she was supposed to have, but it was like, she sound out of it. She sound like she was calling to say goodbye. Like, that's how it sounded. I have 5-6 voicemails back to back of her, and she would go in that, and she would stop talking, and she'd be like, wait, how did you know where I lived? Like, really baffled. Like, yo, she sound like, and at first listening to it, I'm like, yo, she high as fuck. Like, so I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, she down bad. Like, I knew she was bad, but it was just like, yo, like, it's worse. But it's like, as I'm listening to her, I'm just like, this shit sound like she's saying bye. Like, and I remember picking up JJ from school and dropping him back off at the house, and I kind of stayed out in the front in the car and was just like listening to it all over again. Like, she was talking about my hair and how my hair was, and how she liked it, and was talking about a tattoo I had on my chest that I haven't been able to show her or anything because we haven't talked, and was talking about that, and it's just like, what? And I remember playing that message for my husband later on that night, and he was like, what do you think? And I was like, I feel like this was her goodbye. You know what I'm saying? Like, this was a way of God knowing that we could not carry on a conversation with each other, you guys. Like, it was bad, like, it wasn't so much that it was fighting back and forth, because I never yelled and cussed at my mom. Like, that wasn't the type of child I was, you know what I'm saying? It was, I would just take on everything that she would put on me as my own shit, and I would just become not myself, and people around me would get the effects of that. And so that's the type of hold she had on me, because I wanted to take every pain, everything from her, but I couldn't. It's not mine to carry. And so it was weird. And then, so I waited for a while. I kind of just sat up, and that whole week had kind of panned out to the point where I didn't have Jezzy, my daughter, my youngest, with me. My husband was taking her to work that whole week because it was just like something that whole week was off, yo. Like, couldn't shake the feeling, couldn't shake it. And I sat up and was like, okay. And so I called Cameron back, my uncle, called him back. And I was like, what's going on? And he didn't even hear me. He was just like, he's, and he's like frantic, and he's just, trying to figure out the best way to go about it. And I'm just like, just say it. And he was like, I walked into your mom's apartment this morning, and she's gone. She's gone. I don't know what happened, but it looks like she just fell. Like she's laying face down, kind of underneath the table, the kitchen table, and we don't know how long it's been. We don't know how many days it's been. And I remember telling him, okay. And so right before I called him, I had texted my husband a screenshot of what my other cousin had told me. And he had sent me those big ass eyes, like, what you think, And I was like, I told him, I think they're gonna tell me that she's dead. And he was like, call them right now. So was the reason why I called, And so I texted him back, and I was like, yeah, they said that, that she's gone. And so he's like, I'm on my way. So as I'm sitting there waiting on him to come, I'm just like really observing how I feel. And it's like, no lie, I did feel a sense of relief because I knew my mother had been suffering for years, and she was suffering on about a thing that she just, her demons, she couldn't outrun, and she couldn't outrun because she kept feeding them. And I knew that everyone that she wanted to be around, just besides me, was gone. And so in that way it was like, okay, her suffering's done. Like, she's been saying for years, she just wants her mom, she just wants her dad, she just wants her brother, she just, like, she's had all these people who knew her truly and understood her story were gone, that could talk to her, that she felt comfort in, And so it's like, okay, she made peace with that, and I don't have to, worry about her in that way. But it's just like, and so it was a trip, you know what I'm saying? And so I'm like, I'd already had plans to go to California anyway for work. And so, I was supposed to go the following week, and she ended up passing, a week prior. And so I had to fly out to Washington to go deal with everything because no one, no one in the family was close anymore. And she always knew that it was going to be me in the end that was going to have to handle everything. And I always knew too. And I feel like in a way I was kind of setting myself up for that because unknowingly, because had I kept trying to fix her, solve her problems for her, I would have become so bitter and so angry and so upset at the fact that things just weren't going my way, that when I got that phone call, who knows what the fuck, you know what I'm saying? Like, who knows how I would have took it? Who knows how I would have handled the news? And I'm just kind of thankful that I did follow what I know to be true of just kind of letting things go and realizing that, hey, this is her, but this isn't me, and love her from afar, and how it is that that it feels comfortable for you to still love her and deal with the effects of her maybe not fully knowing it and hearing it all the time, but it to be true. Like, I'm gonna have to be okay with that. I'm gonna have to make peace with that, because in the end, I'm gonna have to be there. I'm gonna be the only one there. Like, I knew that. And that's what the fuck happened, yo. Like, that's what the fuck happened to a T. Now, It's just now that she's gone, I feel like the way that I've been moving since I was a kid has always been a very pivotal thing for me. Like, I've always been talking to myself, and again, it kind of makes you feel like certain things are connected no matter what, and how people always say when you pass or when you die, like your whole life kind of flashes before your eyes and everything fucking makes sense. And I just feel like I'm experiencing that feeling in a way for me to be able to not only deal with this loss, but also pick up the pieces and keep moving forward, right? Because I have to. But it's like, okay, if this has happened this way, then other things that I know that are true to me will also take me far. And so it's like, it's a split side, it's a beauty in her passing, because it lets me know that no matter what, the most important thing in life is your own mental and emotional being, and how you treat people is very important, and how you allow others to be themselves and to be who they are is very important. And if who they are doesn't resonate with you, it's okay. It is okay that you could still be you could still do and move how you need to without it affecting your day-to-day, without it affecting anything that you have set for yourself, as long as you don't take things personally, rather than taking things as a perspective of yourself, a new perspective of yourself, because we're all mirror images of each other. I see so much of me in my mother, you know what I mean? And so much of my mother in me, you know what I mean? Like, even my father, like, there's things that my dad even wished that he could achieve that I've already done. And it's like, it's kind of making me look at my kids and the way that I set up my life and be like, okay, like, the things that I won't be able to accomplish in this lifetime, they will pick up and they will do. And sometimes the hardships and the life lessons and all the bullshit that we go through is all conditioning for that simple fact, because our desires are bigger than just ourselves. They're connected to a whole bigger purpose, and that whole bigger purpose is for us to just feel and to create and to just be and live. And if it doesn't happen in this lifetime, it'll happen in your kids. But to always just kind of be connected and share those stories and share those traumas and share those realizations and share everything, so everyone can continue to learn and to instill, knowledge and wisdom into another generation, and just keep it going so that we don't repeat shit. We're repeating things all through our life right now, everywhere on media, families, personal experiences, thoughts that you think every day when you wake up, myself included, patterns that you go through every day that are not healthy for yourself included, because we fixate on the shit that we can't change, rather than using the experiences that have happened that are disconnected from how we authentically feel as ammunition to do better, and to tailor make it to our liking and to our desires in a way that is beneficial for everyone. You know what I'm saying? Like, everyone, in the sense of, if you are bringing your whole self to the table in the best shameless way possible as you could be, and transparent and as honest and as everything as you could be in that moment, and letting that other person be living that same truth and accepting that same shit, they'll recognize that within you everything is all good, and it doesn't have to be the same. It doesn't have to be equal and mirror each other exactly. However you see yourself in it, you see your reflection in it, and that is good enough to just keep shit pushing. Like, those things resonate the most with me with her passing. And it's like, I'm excited about the future. I am very rooted in the fact that I know that I will be better. I already am better. And I'm better for her, because of her, because of my grandmothers, which I'm really, very close to, because they were on both sides, were the glue to things, and it's like, I want to be that. I feel it is my destiny to be that. That shit stops with me. I'm already that friend. I just feel like I want to be able to know myself so well that it doesn't matter who I come across. It's not going to deter me from how it is that I choose to treat you, and or how I choose to receive the experiences that I'm having from you, and not being swayed from your perspective on how my experience should be. You know what I mean? Just very sure and what it is that I want, and to know that other people can have their feelings and their thoughts and their opinions, and it's okay, but that doesn't mean that it needs to fuck up my day. Okay, period. And staying shameless in that fact, and just knowing that, hey, like, everybody different, like, just keep it pushing. Like, that's the best way to be able to keep building on my legacy, and making sure that I have people around that are helping each other, that are fueling passion and love and inspiration into each other. And anybody else that comes across my path, like, what they contribute to, whether it's negatively or positively, all things are learning experience. And I just feel like, thank God for the shit that I went through, to be able to know at this young age, at this time right now, because I would have been in shambles, and I would have been repeating a cycle that I knew that I shouldn't have repeated. And though it sucks that, my mom and I couldn't really patch up things and fix things when she was alive, but it does feel good to know that her death didn't leave me in shambles, yet it kind of planted me in something that I always knew to be mine, and so now I feel comfortable with letting my roots grow where I'm at, and how, it's spiritually in life, and how it is that I move. What I'm saying? I feel more comfortable with my intuition. I feel even more knowing of my ego. I feel even more complete with the fact that, when I laugh, people hear her, and, just to know that I'm carrying on something of hers that she wanted to be portrayed as, but just couldn't get it, couldn't get it. And then I have my own shit, my own personality and stuff like that. And so it's like, I don't know, this moment that I'm in right now, like, I still have right now her death certificate on my desk. I haven't even opened it yet. I've dealt with other stuff from her passing, but just seeing that, like, I'm still in that process, but it's like I'm taking it one day at a time, and moving with it how I know I need to, and not rushing myself, but still getting the shit done. And and here I am on this mic, and it's like, starting this shit even a while ago, like, who knew that this shit would be therapeutic for me to be able to just fucking say it? Because that's the thing, right? That's the main trauma in my family, is that people aren't speaking about things that bother them to the root of shit, and I could speak to people, but it's like, it feels different to be able to let go on the mic and just hit submit, you know what I mean? Because knowing that I could potentially be helping thousands of motherfuckers, like, listeners go up every day, and it kind of gives me energy and creative juice to continue to do the things that I'm doing with Shameless Ave, and everything in life, what I'm saying, all the other goodies that I got up my sleeves, like, that I've always intuitively been on the right path from a child, from writing in my journals, to learning to express, to draw, to painting, to be an observer, to instill, to to connect with my emotions on how it is that I perceived something that I was experiencing, and to work it within me and figure out what I like, what I don't, find a balance in it, let it go, build forward. Like, all of this shit is connected, yo. Like, all of it. And it's just, I'm amazed right now. I really am. Like, this year didn't turn out the way I thought it would, but it was definitely fucking impactful in a way that I always knew it would, and that's another thing about intuition, is you never really fucking know how the details will pan out, but the feeling resonates, and the feeling, and the feeling definitely lines up. Like, I am charged and electrified with life right now, with this passing, and it's brought me and my little uncle, closer together. And he always wanted to be close with family, and because of the time frame he was born at, like, it was just the family was in shambles. And so me having this mindset, I ended up being the exact person that he needed to be around for that shit. And he was the exact person I needed in that moment, because he was there by my side, helping me, sage my mom's apartment, and go through all of her things, and seeing how she was living, and just how her mind just really, like, took over. It was like Hoarderville in there, you guys. Like, her mind got the best of her, and just looking at certain things in her apartment, like, you can tell that she, even to her last dying breath, she was trying to find some type of peace and happiness. There was journals everywhere, and so it's like I saw myself in the fact that I keep journals, and there's journals everywhere, and half written and not completed. And it's like, because her mind, she just was so unsettled. And there's no doubt in my mind that when the coroner does end up sending me that information back, that she probably died of a heart attack. And so it's like, to me, it's of a broken heart, you feel me? And it's like, I have to do everything in my power to make sure that I don't take on things that deeply to the point where I'm not living and fulfilling my purpose, and constantly reliving a loop and trying to solve shit that's already past, and not focusing on my present, so my future can be better, so my kids' future can be better. I cannot fixate on the negative things. I can't. And so how I move about in my life may look a little shameless to motherfuckers, because, bitch, do you have a conscience? And yes, I do. I absolutely do. I'm not ruthless. I'm not cold-hearted. I'm not malicious. I'm not none of that. But I am all about keeping my peace. And if keeping my peace is setting boundaries on things that maybe don't resonate with a certain individual or a job or whatever, then so be it. But I'ma shamelessly pursue my motherfucking shit, and ain't nobody gonna stop me, and with that mindset, of course, that, like I said, that's a trauma too, but I have to, that's my life lesson of knowing that that's how I move. But now I also need to shamelessly check myself when I get too out of whack, right? And the only people that could do that is me and the good G-O-D, okay? Because I don't listen to nobody but me and God. Okay, like, that's it. And so how I do that is by going hermit and connecting with myself and figuring out how I need to move. That's what works best for me. And so I can sit still and receive those message and guidance, and kind of check myself on where it is that I'm going wrong in life, or what's not connecting, and figure out a plan to move forward after that. Any type of experiences that I have with relationships in my life, whether it be friends or personal, I still move that way, and it gets more advanced, and it gets better, and it gets easier with time, and all is well. And it's like the even crazier side of that is all of this shit don't even matter at the end of the day. You feel me? Like, the reason why it matters is because we make it so. I make it so, right? Like, and still being humble enough to know that this is still a choice, is basically what I'm saying. A choice to move this way. and it's a choice that I make because it resonates with me. And so, today is 11/22/22. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, it's the 2-year anniversary of my business, Shameless Ave, and it is an celebration of me expressing myself, and a culmination of literally following the nudges and pulls of what I always felt for myself to be true, intuitively knew to be true for me, and what would resonate for me, and where it's led me, and how I'm here. How I have literally single-handedly achieved everything that I set out to achieve as a child. And now, with my little Kai and my big Kai self hand in hand on, we did that shit. Now we're going to create some shit together, and finding a happy balance between the two desires of each, and what could come of that. And, I'm definitely humbled by all of this experience, and still energized by everything, because, I'm still on the path of helping people. It just is not in the doctorate form. You know what I mean? However, I'm working close with the doctor. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, it's not in that form, but it's still in a way that it's me. You know what I mean? When I go to these schools and I hear these people's stories on what it is that they're experiencing, or I talk with people from the past of, childhood, or new people even, and they're going through things that I already went through, or they're going through things that I haven't experienced, but I could resonate with the feeling maybe. I haven't experienced what it is physically they're going through, and how it came about, how it manifested in their life, but I know the feeling, and to know that I'm there in that moment, to be able to maybe offer some words, offer a shoulder, just offer comfort of just another presence being there, and not saying something, that I'm still doing actively what I set out to do, which is to help heal. And essentially that's all just repetitive, and being able to heal myself, right? So it's like, wow, still on the right track. And it's like, I don't know, I just feel like with this episode, I feel it's kind of crazy, because I had this episode kind of planned out in my head for months, and life just kind of kept lifing, and I couldn't really sit down to get it out. And when I did, it didn't come out right. Even now, today, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's taken a while for me to fully connect my thoughts and everything, because everything that's happening, like there's so many thoughts and feelings and emotions that are going on within me right now, of things that I want to express but don't really necessarily feel ready to. So it's like I have to dial it back, so even within this process, it's all about being transparent, yes, but it's also about speaking my truth. And I can't speak it if I don't really understand how I'm feeling yet, to be able to articulate it to you, right? So I have to speak on the things that I feel and have already made connections on, to be able to express. And so, that's where I'm at, y'all. Like, yeah, that is where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? Life. Like, woo, life, guys. Like, I just want to say, listen, if you are dealing with any identity crisis, any mental health shit, family shit, anything like that, please take care of you. Make sure that the way that you move is best for you. Fuck the other shit, okay? Because motherfuckers will leech from you, will latch onto you and leech you and mooch off of you of every fucking thing that you have, if you let them to, because everyone is on a journey and a pursuit to fulfill their immediate need. And how you differ from the crowd is based on your why, and why it is that you do the things that you do, and all of that is different from person to person. And as long as you know that, what your purpose is, like what your whole drive and that passion that's fueling inside of you, that keeps you going, when you really connect with that, everything else will fall into place. And you'll go through bullshit and you'll go through all of that shit. But if you just keep that in your forefront, like in your mind, in your back pocket, in your bag, keep that little gem in your bag, everything will end up making sense in the end, you know. I have no doubt that the route that my life chose to take, you know, it couldn't have been any other way. It really couldn't have. Really, really couldn't have. You know, the things that I've learned in these 31 years have been extremely impactful and have played every single role into everything that I do on a daily basis. How I function, how I operate, how I execute, how I everything. All right. And I wouldn't be me. I just really wouldn't. So this in itself, this experience that I'm feeling within itself, you know, with losing my mom and being at this point of losing my mom in a year where I feel most like myself is kind of bizarre. And that takes on a whole nother thought process, okay? But I've already been sitting here talking to y'all for almost 2 hours, all right? But that takes on a whole nother type of conversation. But it's just like, all in all, I'm still very grateful for every fucking thing, for every minute, for the last, you know, phone calls that I did receive, for being able to have the funds to go out there to handle her affairs, to sage how I wanted to. You know, I wasn't able to see her body, but I feel like that was kind of beneficial for me, because especially not knowing how long she had been there, it wasn't over in a week or nothing, but maybe 2 or 3 days is what I'm thinking, but at the worst. But you know, it probably would have fucked me up. So it's like the way that my life has unfolded, and knowing that things happen for a reason, you know, me not being able to, you know, see her body like that was good, I'm sure, for me, you know. So I'm not hung up on the, you know, what ifs, or hung up on the, you know, I wish I could have. Like, everything happened the way it needed to, and everything will continue to happen the way it needs to, and I will always know how I need to move, because I'm connected to me, and I know how I work, and I'm aware of my traumas, and I'm aware of my triggers, and I'm aware of, you know, so many other things that I intuitively feel to be true, but maybe just don't know the face of it yet. And I know that as long as I continue to stick with the feelings that I feel, and finding a perfect balance of peace and action, you know what I'm saying, that those things will unfold in time, and I will look back at everything and just being like, damn, you know what I'm saying, on a whole new level of damn, you know. And that's just what I wish for everybody, you know. Yeah. That's what I got, y'all. You know what I'm saying? Sorry this episode wasn't all hee-hee-ha, but you know, that's life, right? Everything ain't always hee-hee-ha and rainbows and butterflies and all that good shit. But that's where I'm at. I mean, I'm just in a mode of really, really just receiving, and kind of just being quiet and instilling, and kind of just like, okay, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is how I need to start moving, and, you know, adjust myself all over again, alchemizing all over again, balancing all over again, you know, so that I could keep chugging and keep being better, and keep taking the time to really feel the emotions that I feel, and be present and appreciate where I am right now, because at one point I wanted to be here, right? So yeah, you know, with that said, I mean, Thanksgiving is coming up, y'all. You know my ass ain't gonna be back before Thanksgiving. Let's just keep it solid. I ain't, but I'll try to be back for my birthday. A birthday in January 22nd. I'm gonna try to be back. I'll try to be back before my birthday, but life be lifing, y'all. But you know, as always, y'all, stay safe, you know what I'm saying? Stay focused on your desires, and just living and making sure that you take time to be grateful, and to appreciate how far you come, and appreciate the contrast, appreciate the bullshit that's happening in your life, because it's teaching you a lesson. If you're tired of going through the same shit, then peeps the shit that you're going through and change it. You know what I'm saying? Like, period. That's all you have to do. You know, I say that to you as I say to myself, you know what I mean? And other things happen in our life that we have no control of, but figuring out how you can best adjust yourself to deal with your current circumstances is a part of accepting and surrendering. And as long as you continue to do that until some shit unfolds for you, then you'll be all right, man. Like, you know, don't pay attention to time. Just pay attention to how you feel and how you want to move. You know, there's no clock that, you know, you're trying to outbeat. There's none of that. Just life is about feeling and experiencing. And so the more you desire, the more you'll be able to experience. Just make sure that shit is tailored to how you want to fucking feel. You know, don't fixate on negative shit so negative shit don't happen. All right? With that being said, of course, always, y'all know y'all can follow me for the newbies that's in here, you know, that don't know me, that kind of know me now, but a little bit, they're not really, okay? Y'all can follow me on IG at Shameless Kai, K-Y, or you guys know, download the app, Shameless Av, or go on www.shamelessav.com and buy some merch, y'all, because, you know, I got back into the creative game and, you know, still working on my art and shit. And so came up with some new merch today, guys, that's out right now at the store. And, you know, go buy a t-shirt or something. Go buy a paint or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Support your girl. All right? Support your girl. If you don't want to buy nothing yet, put something in your wish list and forward this podcast to somebody. Either way, you know, it's about helping and healing and paying it forward, you know, regardless. So I'm glad y'all showed up for me once again. I'm seeing my listeners go up and shit, so that's a cool feeling. I'm gonna be honest, you know. Where I'm at right now, you know, I'd wish this feeling on everybody, and it's a cool self-reflective point to be at. You know what I'm saying? Despite all the bullshit, right? Because that's what this is about. That's what this is about. Despite all the bullshit, you know, still seeing the blessings and everything. And I'm very grateful, very appreciative for, you know, everything and how it's unfolded for me, you know, good and bad. And I hope that you guys can find that sense of peace within yourselves and to be, you know, a tool or a vessel for someone else, you know, in their journey, and to just, you know what I'm saying, just keep it going, y'all. So I'm about to get up out of here. All right, I'm gone. I'll catch y'all on the flip side. Find me on IG or not, maybe in a town near you or not, but other than that, I'll be back. All right, back.